Mikasa Sukasa. You Eddie, right?
Yeah.
Look like Eddie Guerrero, man. You like to watch wrestling?
Yep.
Have you ever watched wrestling? On weed? That's the way to see it, man! It's fuck!
What a word, your boy Physics in. You know what time it is. It is March 9th. Welcome to another Wild News Joint. On today's episode, we're talking about what's going on with Cody Rhodes. We're updating you on Becky Lynch's entry, and we're going on the road to WrestleMania and a little bit more right after this.
Really? This is my yard now. It doesn't matter what the
Shout out to everybody that's here in the Wild Nation. Shout out to everybody in the live chat. And if you're watching right now on the replay, make sure to comment. I will hit you back in there, especially with all that's going on today. And with that, we're starting with what the hell is going on with Cody Rhodes. On last week's episode on Friday, it started to fly around that Cassidy Haynes of BodySlam.net, the same guy that broke the Bryan Danielson news, was told that Cody Rhodes' talks with WWE had fizzled out. One source says there is hope Cody can return to AEW, possibly in a new role related to Tony Khan's purchase of Ring of Honor. And not only that, but he was also supposed to come back during Revolutions, which, as we saw, did not happen. So, what is going on? Meltzer also noted that heard that Cody Rhodes to WWE may not happen. They said Meltzer said they had creative laid out for him. Now it's very uncertain. They don't know what's going on with Cody Rhodes. They're not sure. Once this came out, the rumors of Cody Rhodes not going to AEW spread. It wasn't until yesterday that Meltzer updated this report and stated that Cody Rhodes has multiple offers and WWE wants an answer on theirs soon for obvious reasons. Cody is well aware of all the rumors about his status per Fightful Select. Sources close to Rhodes are indicating he won't sign anywhere for quite some time and downplaying reports about his next move. So what's going on? I'm not sure. If I had to guess, one of the things about Cody Rhodes is whenever he shows up somewhere, he likes to have a persona already kind of picked out of what's he going to do. And I feel like on his end, he's probably trying out looks and he doesn't know yet, which is why he said it's going to take time. When we see him, we're not going to see the Cody Rhodes we saw in AEW. Might be a different style of hair. The man might come with a goatee. He might come with the Hulk Hogan look. Who knows? But he's not going to come into WWE, AEW, or Ring of Honor the way he looks. We already know there's like real life issues between him and Tony Khan. Unless Tony Khan is going to say sorry or do anything of that sort, I don't know if that's going to work out. And a lot of people are saying, well, he could take over Ring of Honor, but Tony Khan has already stated that he's going to be the one booking Ring of Honor, which then just takes Cody away from doing that. I wouldn't be surprised if he's gotten offers from Impact. Wouldn't be surprised if he got offers from MLW and of course WWE. I feel like Impact would still make him adjacent to AEW, and I'm not sure where we would go with that, but it's very interesting on what's the possibility of like what's going on with Cody Rhodes. But if I had to guess, I feel like the WWE thing is still in the cards. I think the biggest issue with everything going on with the WWE thing, get my silk right. I feel like the biggest issue with the WWE thing is the fact that they jumped the gun. And when they jumped the gun, they were the ones to leak the information that he was leaving AEW. On top of leaking the information he was leaving AEW, they were the ones to say that he was coming to WWE. They should have waited until he signed the contract to do their victory lap. And once they didn't wait, it put him in this predicament where now all of these rumors are spreading because they're like, he hasn't signed yet. He's not there yet. So what's going on? So I mean, WWE on air can only blame themselves for hyping this up and not having anything to show. So, shame on them for that. But I wouldn't be surprised if he ends back up in WWE. If he ends back up in WWE, feel like with AEW, a lot of things will have to be worked out, and not only worked out, but worked out publicly. Which means Tony Khan is going to have to say, everything publicly about how you went through things, because I don't feel like just a regular sorry is going to cut it for Cody. Especially with everything that was going around and him not getting his contract that 1 year renewed. So I just feel like there's a lot more that's going to go with that. Now let's talk about Becky Lynch's injury. After a match with Bianca Belair at a WWE live event, she took a forearm to the throat, which caused the injury before taking a KOD. The injury, according to Becky, was a fractured voice box, and it could just be bruised. But if it was a fractured voice box, it's a good thing that it was called early, and that she went to the doctors immediately, because it's an injury that could lead to death due to having air going into your lungs. She took to Instagram to state, unfortunately, I will not be at WWE Raw tonight. Not only did Bianca whip me mercilessly with the illegal weapon that is her hair last week, but last night in the main event of a WWE Allentown, she tried to take away my biggest weapon, the spoken word, by fracturing my voice box. She can't keep me down easily. I'll be coming for her next week. You can't spell WrestleMania without me. Actually, you can, but I get her point. Um, she will be back next week. She cut a promo backstage via her Twitter at Cleveland, showing that she was at the event. She just wasn't okay to wrestle. Um, Her voice should probably be a lot better next week. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring, they're going to bring this injury up, use it as a storyline, and I wouldn't be surprised it's the thing that leads to her losing, because as she stated on her Instagram, she has not lost the belt yet. But I feel in my heart of hearts, my heart of Bret Hearts, that that Bianca Belair will be taking that belt off of Becky Lynch. Now, speaking of the road to WrestleMania, let's get on it. It was announced on Monday that Big Van Vader, the man of Boy Meets World, will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. The former NFL player turned Big Van Vader was considered one of the best big men in sports after his exploits in Japan. During his career, he was a two-time Triple Crown heavyweight champion in All Japan Pro Wrestling, three-time IWGP heavyweight champion for New Japan Pro Wrestling, three-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion, WCW United States Heavyweight Champion, and named Wrestler of the Year by PWI in 1993. He did not get any of the big belts. He was supposed to, but of course, there was a nuisance named Shawn Michaels that kind of ruined everything with that. But that's just how Shawn Michaels was until he lost his smile, and then he got it back, and he wasn't as so much as an asshole as he was once he found God. So here we go. Vader passed away June 18th, 2018, night before having a banging match with Will Ospreay. He passed away at the age of 63. He should have been in the Hall of Fame long before he passed away, but it's good to see that he is getting his just due. Now let's go into the rumors of who else will be a part of this class with Vader and The Undertaker. And the thing is, Vader and Undertaker had great matches together. So the fact that they're both going in at the same time is beautiful. Great synchronicity. The Steiner brothers will have been rumored to be added to the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2020, according to Brad Shepard. Last week, Shepard tweeted that Vader will be inducted, so he seems to have kind of an end. The Master and the Ruler of the World is reportedly heading to the WWE Hall of Fame, and Batman's Andrew Zarian reports that former WWE champion Psycho Sid Vicious is expected to be inducted to the 2022 class during WrestleMania 38 weekend in Dallas. Queen Sharmell is also rumored for 2022 WWE Hall of Fame inductions. WWE plans to keep the Hall of Fame ceremony to 90 minutes this year. Meltzer said on Wrestling Observer Radios he's heard that might mean some in the class will only be inducted digitally, which could mean a short video speech or just a video package. I wouldn't be surprised that with Vader, due to him passing away, it will be a video package. I guarantee the Steiner brothers will be there because, of course, Scott is going to be nothing but comedy. I wouldn't be surprised if Braun Breaker is the one that's going to bring them in. Makes sense, Rick's son. But Queen Sharmell, I'm guessing they're doing this because it is in Texas. Her husband is from Texas, and they're going to put her in there. But I mean, great manager. She was a Nitro girl, but this would have been a good time to put China in as an individual. She was inducted in with DX, but she needs to go in individually by herself. So I don't really understand that one. I'm surprised what Psycho said. Of course, WWE champion, did a ton of things. I mean, he was when I watched wrestling as a kid, when I really wasn't super into it, like that little beginning part before we hit full attitude area with Ahmed Johnson, Sid Vicious doing this, his Jerry Curl juice hitting the fans in the eyes, blinding every fan there. You know, he was great. He was a champion, of course, all the stuff with him and the Undertaker during that time period. And I remember he had like this, like there was like a church choir behind him, and he was like power bombing people. If I remember that correctly, I feel like it was a commercial, but you know, it always felt like with Psycho Sid that like they put him as a top guy, but he never felt like a top guy, and he was never that great on the mic. Of course, we all know his WCW fumble, but stabbing people, that was good with him. um, while WWE wants Stone Cold Steve Austin to work a match with Kevin Owens at WrestleMania 38, Dave Meltzer said on Wrestlers Over Radio that Austin hasn't agreed to it yet. At this point, it's on the books as a confrontation. Austin has accepted it via a video that popped up on their Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And he said, and he will unleash one more can of whoop ass. But it hasn't been announced as a match right now. It's, the KO show. It could turn into a match. We will see. But there will be a confrontation. They will be fighting. There will be something because Stone Cold doesn't open the can of whoop ass without taking a few sips and stumping mud holes through people. For however long it lasts, Wrestlers Over Newsletter says WWE will refer to the winner of the Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns title match as the unified WWE champion. Vince McMahon is still key to the Austin Theory Pat McAfee match at WrestleMania, and current plans call for him to get more involved in the storyline at some point. Per Wrestling Observer Radio's Dave Meltzer. WWE is hoping to have all of their WrestleMania 38 plans locked in next week. Dave Meltzer reported on the latest edition of Wrestling Observer Radio. Meltzer noted that next week is set to be a big one for the company in terms of setting up the matches and what fans can expect from the two-night event. The annual Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale was also discussed. Typically, this bout has taken place on WrestleMania card either on the main show or the pre-show since 2014. However, the match may not be happening at the grandest stage of them all, or things are currently described as fluid of the shows. This bout may happen on Monday or Friday night instead, which makes sense. They kind of start doing the battle royales the night before, especially on SmackDown, to get people hyped, but not at the event. So let's see what's going on so far with WrestleMania and just look at night one. Night one, we have Logan Paul and The Miz versus the Mysterios. We have Drew McIntyre versus Happy Baron Corbin. We have the Raw Women's title match, Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch. We have Kevin Owens host the KO show with Stone Cold Steve Austin. We have a women's title match, Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair. And it makes me wonder who's going to be the main event. We have two women matches, and Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch. I feel like this is going to be for bragging rights of whoever's going to take that last place. I'll say this: if the KO show was last, it means that Stone Cold is wrestling. Having Stone Cold main event at WrestleMania because it's his return match, it just makes sense. So we will see of like where people will end up, but one of them is going to start off it, and I feel like it's either going to be Ronda Rousey, Charlotte. Like one of these women title matches is starting it off, and one might end it, or they might. I wouldn't be if they're back to back. I feel like that would be great. And you just call them two main events. But WWE is really weird with stuff like that, and they kind of like to have like a big starting match to start things off. It could be the Stone Cold thing. But I don't know if Stone Cold will want to start off WrestleMania and then it'd just be a hard act to follow after that. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what they do in night one because night two is packed. We got Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn, Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory with Vince McMahon being involved. We have the match I'm looking forward to, Edge versus AJ Styles. We have Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley versus Naomi and Sasha Banks versus Carmella and Queen Zelina Vega which is a triple threat match for the WWE Women's Tag Team match. And we have a winner takes all unification match, which will be the main event. WWE Champion Brock Lesnar versus WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns. So that's what we got for WrestleMania. But let's get to some quick hits. Asked on this podcast about Triple H's status within WWE, Ric Flair said, "I have no idea. He and I were incredibly close, and now I never hear from him, so I don't know. Maybe you don't hear from him because of all your exploits in the past that's caught up to you, and he doesn't want to be involved with any of your shenanigans. That might just be the case. Who knows?" But I mean, outside of he gave a bunch of props to Vader. He was wrestling when Vader was around Triple H, and I wouldn't be surprised. And that was like he kind of broke silence. He doesn't really do much, even on Twitter anymore, when he used to do a lot. So hopefully, this means we're going to get more appearances and vocalization from Triple H. Or, maybe the whole reason Cody hasn't signed yet is because he's waiting to hear word about Triple H and what a possible match that could happen, even though it doesn't seem like Triple H will wrestle, but who knows? Though he stayed to work Sacrifice, Jake Something's contract with Impact ended on February 28th, and he's done with the company for now, per Fightful Select. After the disastrous response to the last few video games, Fightful Select reports WWE met with EA Sports about their next licensing deal. WWE 2K22 was the final release as part of their contract with 2K and Take-Two Interactive, and it's seen as a make or break for the future of the franchise. So if the reviews aren't good, and then on top of the rules, if the reviews, let's say the reviews are good, they have to sell a bunch. It has to make sense for WWE to stay with 2K. Looks like they're looking at AEW. They're looking at EA Sports, which would be quite interesting. Of course, because they got to get this right. They know that the AEW video games are supposedly right around the corner. At this moment, I feel like that game's probably not going to come out till next year. But they know that it's back there, and it's a possibility that if that game is great, it can really knock out WWE as far as video games. So they got to make sure that everything goes right with 2K22, and if not, they need to move to EA to make sure that all is good there. It would be quite interesting to see what EA Sports would do with it. I know as far as like what they would do, advertising wise, would be huge, but making a good wrestling game, we will have to see. As far as wrestling, they have UFC. That's as far as they've gone. It would be interesting to see what they do with the mechanics, and it's just WWE's in this weird. I feel like a lot of games when it comes to sports games are in this weird place. A lot of people want simulation, but when it comes to things like wrestling, a lot of people want some arcadiness to it. I know with Lalo, that's kind of his thing. He doesn't like that it feels too real, but I feel like if that's the case, he's not gonna like AEW, because it seems like AEW is kind of going for a fast pace but a lot more realistic type video game when it comes to wrestling. I still don't know how you get to that point of wrestling. 2K try to make it like how they do their basketball games, but it seems to not be working. So you have to try to find a balance of the arcadiness on top of the simulation of realism when it comes to wrestling video games. A Wrestlers Over Live, Brian Alvarez said the only injury at Revolution happened in a ladder match. Orange Cassidy hurt his shoulder and needs an MRI. AEW changed the finish of the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match at Revolution several times leading up to the pay-per-view per Fightful. Hold on. Which makes sense. As you know, when we did the predictions, I thought Thunder Rosa was going to win. That was not the case. It seemed like it was leading to there. It was the first time in AEW history where a person won a match and didn't go into winning their pay-per-view match the day before. So that's why everybody kind of shifted. Once they saw what she did in Dynamite, they were like going through history. This is exactly what was going to happen. And I guess AEW kind of caught wind of that and decided to, if they were going to flip it for anybody, it would be Den. So makes sense. Former Ring of Honor owner and current ambassador Kerry Silken has been named the first recipient of the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame Legacy Award. Silken Jones, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe, and Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions the Briscoes as inductees into the inaugural Ring of Honor Hall of Fame class. WWE Peacock has a new show coming out later this year called WWE Evil. They should just call it WWE Evil, like it's right there, but WWE Evil. WWE Evil is the new Peacock series, which will be narrated and executive produced by veteran WWE superstar John Cena. WWE Evil is said to be an entertaining psychological expose into the minds of the most diabolical antagonists in WWE history and their impact on mainstream culture. Cena later commented that WWE has produced some of the best bad guys and ladies ever, and that he was excited to highlight those who made us boo, scream, and sometimes cry. I'm going to guess we're going to get a Mankind one. Only makes sense. Also, why might not forget? Why can't I remember his name? The dude that eats the worms. He just signed a contract, another contract with WWE, Boogeyman. He just signed another contract with WWE, and it makes sense that he was signed that contract because he was going to be on the show. So wouldn't be surprised if Boogeyman is there. They might talk about Luna, especially during that time period of being a villain. I feel like Luna fits there. It'd be quite interesting to see where we go. I would like to see Gangrel. I don't know how they would do it due to, they don't like to show the viscous blood and stuff like that. And it was a lot more redder during that time period, but we will see. And I'm quite interested. I'll probably watch 1 or 2 episodes to see how it is and then go forward from there. Now, let's talk about what's going on tonight in the world of wrestling. The post-revolution edition of AEW Dynamite on TBS will air live tonight from the Hertz Arena in Estero, Florida, with fallout from last Sunday's pay-per-view. AEW has announced the following lineup for tonight's Dynamite, which is Layla Hirsch versus Thunder Rosa to determine a new #1 contender to AEW Women's World Championship champion Britt Baker. I mean, Thunder Rosa just went for it, lost. Most likely is going to be Layla Hirsch. I don't know. I feel like they should have put somebody else under than Thunder Rosa in that match. Chris Jericho will address Eddie Kingston, and we have a TNT champion Sammy Guevara defense against Scorpio Sky. If you want to know what goes down and what happened, make sure to watch the Blunt Ratings with Laylo as he go over everything that went on the night before at AEW Dynamite. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you were here with me, and I thank you for that. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. If you comment, I make sure to respond to you. Let me know what you think is going to go on with Cody Rhodes. Let me know what you think about the road to WrestleMania and everything else going on in the wrestling world. I will see you Friday. Until then, have a good time. Enjoy some wrestling. Enjoy life. And peace.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to know when we go live next. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Wrestling on Weed.